I'm Frances.
I'm Kate.
I'm Kelly. And for the Biennale of Sydney, we have been commissioned to make a new work called Making History. So we started obviously with Stephanie's provocation, which was to think about the future and the way that it might be unevenly distributed. And so we thought to look back to the past, because of course the past always impacts on the future, and to start thinking about the inequities of the past and the way that history is written. And so we have created an evolving archive of performance art history and thinking about different ways of telling histories.
So essentially we're inviting a whole lot of different artists to create the work with us, and this is a fairly new way of working for us. We haven't sort of extended our collaboration so much in the past. So yeah, we've got a range of different artists from various generations and practices to come into the space and perform to respond to the provocation of making history.
And it builds on a project that we've been working on for a number of years about the mythic artist Barbara Cleveland. And so the provocation that we gave to all the artists that we're working with was to remake or reinterpret her work, and to do that in the space, and to think about, to use her as a starting point to think about different ways of telling history.
Barbara Cleveland was a performance artist working in Sydney in the 1970s who disappeared mysteriously in 1981. And we came across an archive box a few years ago of some of her performance lectures and other various documents. That we then tried to look into further, and we couldn't actually find much material on Barbara Cleveland within the kind of narrative of performance art in Australia. So we kind of took it on board for ourselves to kind of research her and make work about her as a way to kind of rewrite her into that narrative.
So over the Biennale period, pretty much every Saturday there will be people or events. So there's going to be artists, academics giving lectures or doing performances. And a lot of what will change in the space are sort of the traces of those performances or those events. We have sort of a series of screens that will then accumulate the documentation of each of those events. And we also have sort of audio recordings as well of some of those performances. So every week, I guess, it will be building up with that documentation of those performances and lectures, so you will get more people's input into kind of, I guess, more people's deliberations on what history and future and performance mean to them. Yeah.
I guess we kind of envisage this to be very much a process-based installation, that like we start with this framework and this provocation, which is the kind of empty space you see now, which will then grow and grow and grow over the 3 months. That isn't actually a finished work until the very last day of the Biennale.
And we chose a wide variety of people that are kind of at the, I guess, peak of their career or have been practicing for 40 years. People like Mike Parr, who's a pioneering figure in Australian art history, to artists that are just finishing art school, like Eugene Choi, who's just finished her honours, who's figuring out what her practice is, and then this is a kind of provocation to her. So we wanted a range of different artists coming from different perspectives to develop this process beyond us.
Yeah, the idea of multiple voices and multiple perspectives is really important to us, and it's kind of a feminist way of approaching history as well, so that's why we've decided to do that.